Welcome to a brand new episode of Beyond the Coffee Table, the podcast. I'm your host, Terry Glenn Harris, and I'm so excited to be back with you with the brand new episode of this here podcast. Listen, if you're watching on YouTube and you have not yet smashed that like or subscribe button, go ahead and like and subscribe so that you never miss a new episode. And if you're listening via whatever audio platform you might be listening from, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Anchor, iHeartRadio, wherever you're listening, make sure you select your subscribe option so that you never missed a new episode of Beyond the Coffee Table, the podcast, where we lift one another up and never tear one another down. All right. And I'm doing something new with these episodes. I am actually going to be doing something at the end of the episode called Moment with the Motivator, where I am basically going to give you some encouragement, some motivation. I hope to do that the entire podcast episode. But at the end of the episode, I'm absolutely going to touch on a specific topic. And I'm going to give you about a good 60 to 90 seconds of motivation. But don't fast forward, stop, listen, get your notepads out if you need to get your notepads out, and let's go ahead on this journey. So today's episode is called You Have to Finish. You have to finish. You have to finish. You sitting on the couch right there. Yes, you have to finish. You listening to this podcast episode while you're on your way to work. You have to finish. You listening to this podcast episode while you're walking to class on your college campus. You have to finish. You listening to this episode on your way to school, high school, middle school. You have to finish. You listening to this episode on your way to work or on your way to church. You have to finish. You sitting in your car right now and trying to figure out how you're going to make it. You have to finish. See, getting started is easy. Getting started is easy because it's exciting. When an idea first drops into your mind, when it first drops into your spirit, all you want to do is get started. And the reason you want to get started is because it's new. It's brand new. And it's like, oh, I got this incredible idea, this great thing that I want to do. Let me hurry up. Let me write it down. Let me get started. But what happens when there's a hiccup? Or what happens when things don't necessarily go according to the plan? When there's a bit of resistance, our happiness, our excitement tends to drop a little. And that's when we start to stop. But I want to give you just a couple points and then I'm going to let you go on your way and finish whatever it is that you were doing before you stopped to listen to this episode. My first point is do not stop. Do not stop. Do not stop. Why is my first point do not stop? Because the moment we meet the road with a little resistance, that's one of the first things we want to do. We want to stop. We want to give up. We want to turn around and walk the other way. But we can not do that because the moment you stop, even if you feel that it's been a little bit of failure, you don't fail until you quit. So the moment you stop, that's you quitting. That's you giving up. That's you saying, you know what, that idea that I had that I was so excited about and so passionate about, it doesn't matter. But it does. Because you wouldn't have gotten the idea. You wouldn't have gotten the vision. You wouldn't have felt the burning desire within to do whatever that thing is, to start that business, to ask that person to marry you, to apply to that school, to apply to that job. If you were just supposed to stop when things got a little bit challenging. So you're not allowed to stop. Do not stop. Keep going. When there's a little bit of resistance, keep going. When it seems like you're just kind of boxed in, keep going. I don't know how many of you have ever seen that picture where there's the guy and he's hacking away, hacking away, hacking away, hacking away at the wall, and then he gives up. And on the picture, you see that if he would have hacked away maybe 3, 4, 5 more times, he would have gotten to the treasure that he was trying to get. How many times have you been sitting on an idea, or how many times have you wanted to do something and you started doing it and it just got a little bit hard and the rubber met the road a little bit, with a little bit too much resistance, and it started to not feel as good because you weren't where you wanted to be when you wanted to be there, and you gave up. You stopped, you walked away. And then sometimes you take a moment and you begin to think, wow, had I kept going, where might I be right now? Might I be where I said I wanted to be? Might I be doing the thing I so desperately wanted to do if I didn't give up? So just remember, do not stop. Point number 2 is always remember why you started to begin with. If we can remember why we start when things get rough, if we can remember why we start when we begin to meet that resistance, I guarantee you it'll make it worth our while to keep going. So, what I challenge you to do is when you get that new idea, if you have that new idea right now, pause this episode, go write that idea down. And then after you write that idea down, write 5 reasons why you're going to start working on that idea. It might be your family, it might be yourself, it might be to get out of debt, it might be to create generational wealth. Whatever your reasons for starting are, underneath the idea, underneath the dream, underneath the vision, write down why you're doing it. Because no one does anything just because. For instance, if you go to work, you're not going to work just because. You're going to work because A, you love your job, B, you need a paycheck, C, a combination of the two. There's a reason you go to work each day. If you're going to school each day, you're going to school because you want to get an education. You're going to school because you're the first one in your family to do so. You're going to school because you want to make somebody proud. You're going to school because you want that degree, or you want that diploma, or you want that certificate. Whatever your reason why, write it down so that when it gets hard, you'll be able to go to that list and say, you know what, it's hard right now, but I'm doing this for grandma. I'm doing this for papa. I'm doing this for my children. I'm doing this for me. And that reason why it'll light or reignite the flame that was burning when you initially got the idea, or when you initially got the vision, or when you initially had the dream. It'll cause that flame to, instead of going out, it'll cause it to get a little bit bigger, and then eventually it'll grow even greater than it was when you first got the idea, or had the dream, or received the vision. So remember, always remember why you started to begin with, and write those reasons why you started down right underneath the idea. All right. Last point, and then I'm going to get out of your way after, of course, the moment with the motivator comes. So, my last point is respect the burnout. Respect the burnout. When you find yourself getting tired or drained, put it down for a moment and come back to it in a day or in an hour or so, whatever works best for you. But remember to come back. See, athletes, bodybuilders, people training for marathons, as they're on their journey in training, people looking to, bulk up, as they're on that journey, eventually they come to a workout day where they do something called maxing out. And maxing out basically is that person going to the gym and just going ham, lifting, or whatever it is they're maxing out at. I'm just going to say a weightlifter. They're lifting weights and they're adding more weight and they're adding more weight and they're adding more weight and they're working out to the point where their muscles almost completely fail them. And they feel they're going and they feel the burn. And they're lifting the weights and they feel the burn. And then their arms or their legs or whatever body part they're working out begins to tremble. And they can almost feel that there's going to be a point where their muscles are going to completely give out on them and they're not going to be able to lift anymore. And when they get to that point, they stop. They stop, they get up, they get their towel, they walk away, and they hit the showers. That is what I encourage you to do. And I'm not talking about maxing out. I'm talking about respecting the burnout. And the reason it's important for us to respect the burnout is because we don't want our brain to begin to tell ourselves, I don't like this thing. I don't want to work on that vision of entrepreneurship because we work on it so much that it's becoming a chore and it's no longer joyful how it once was. I no longer want to talk about this wedding because every single day, although in the beginning I was very happy, but it's like, can we just sit down and watch television for a minute? I really don't want to talk about that right now. I don't want to talk about going to any classes. I don't want to talk about running this marathon. It's no longer exciting to me. That's what we do when we constantly, go at it. And we go at it to exhaustion, to the point where we wake up in the morning and we're like, oh my goodness, I'm so tired. I don't want to do this anymore. This is not fun to me anymore. Will it always be fun? Absolutely not. But you don't want to get to a point where every single day you're doing it and no part of the journey does it bring you joy any longer, because that's the brain commanding your body that I don't like this anymore. So when you find yourself getting to a point where you're beginning to be exhausted doing, building up to your dream or building up to your goal, stop. Put it down for a day or two. Get some rest. Take your mind off of it. Walk away and then come back. Because more than likely, when you come back, you'll have fresh ideas. More than likely, when you come back, you would have missed it. And your brain will say, oh, yeah, we get to do this again. Yeah, I'm so excited. Versus, oh, we got to do this again. I'm already tired just thinking about it. You don't want that to happen. So respect the burnout. So just a quick reiteration of my 3 points. Point number 1, do not stop. Keep going. When you feel the resistance, push through it. Point number 2, always remember why you started to begin with. Write your dream, write your goal, write your vision, and then right under it, write why you're doing it, why it's important to you, why you started to begin with. And then point number 3, respect the burnout. When you feel yourself getting tired of it, put it down, walk away, go do something that makes you happy, brings you joy, gives you peace. And a day or 2, come back. But always make sure you come back. Listen, hope this episode was insightful or enlightening to you. Again, if you have not already, make sure you go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button so that you never miss out on an episode, and tell a friend who will tell a friend about what you received here on Beyond the Coffee Table, the podcast. And now make sure you stay tuned. Don't stop it. Don't pause it. Don't end it, because coming up right now is the moment with the motivator. Don't get discouraged is a term far easier said than done. Because if we're honest with each other and if we're honest with ourselves, discouragement is inevitable when we don't obtain what we feel we should have and when we aren't where we feel we should be. When we don't get the job, when you failed the class, when the answer is no, we're bound to get discouraged. So I'm not going to tell you don't get discouraged, because I've been discouraged. But what I will say is this: don't stay there. Don't stay there. Take your moment, feel all of what you're going to feel. Then remember who you are. Dust yourself off. Get back out there and claim what is rightfully yours.